If the war had ended in June and July 1940, millions of people who were killed in the fighting, about 20 million people from that point on, would not have been killed. The 6 million all died in the period after June, July 1940. So if the war had ended then, there's at least a fair chance that another, less unpleasant fate would have been meted out. We were told by Mr. Churchill that the British Empire was at stake, and that man, the devil incarnate, was going to wreck the British Empire and invade Britain. And from about 1941 onwards, when America came into the war, of course, America had no interest at all in preserving the British Empire. Eventually, of course, when we then invaded Germany, lo and behold, we found the evidence post facto that we'd have been right. We captured the concentration camps, we invaded Dachau and Bergen-Belsen, the Buchenwald, we got the terrible newsreel photographs, British bulldozers tipping the bodies into lime-filled pits, and all the rest of it. But now that we have the British and the German files available to us, if we're prepared to get open-minded about it, look at these files, we can see that, in my opinion, I think my hypothesis will eventually turn out to be substantiated. We can see that the journey was not really necessary. That from 1940 onwards, June 1940 onwards, the war was pointless. And we should have got out then, the same that Richard Nixon eventually did in 1953 when he got out of Vietnam. If you look at the records of 1940, you see that for a time in June and July 1940, Churchill was actually willing to accept Hitler's offer. German offer was peace, pull out of France, pull out of Czechoslovakia or Poland while still leaving the German force in the disputed areas, leaving him free to invade Russia and eastern territories. He had no claims against Britain or the British Empire, although we declared war on him. In fact, he even said by intermediaries that he was willing to assist the British in defending Britain's interests overseas, even against Japan, Russia and Italy, who were his own allies. This was the German offer. It was so effective that Churchill occasionally looked at it during those months, June and July, and considered accepting it, particularly on June the 20th and 21st. We know this because in his cabinet was 6 men, his 6-man war cabinet. Half the members, 3 of them, wanted peace on Hitler's terms. Lord Halifax, Lord Beaverbrook, the great Canadian, and Neville Chamberlain, former Prime Minister, they all wanted to accept Hitler's terms. We had a chance in June, July 1940 to settle our war for nothing. We could have got out of the war for nothing at all. Yet we decided to fight on and bankrupted the empire and sold off all our overseas assets, Nabisco's corporation, Venezuelan railroads, all the British Empire's overseas assets, which alone had kept Britain a viable economic entity, were sold off without the British people finding out. Our gold was sold off. Roosevelt actually sent a dapper ship down to South Africa in December 1940 to collect the empire's tiny gold reserves. From that point on, we were completely at the mercy of our great American allies, who had not the slightest interest in the preservation of the British Empire. If the war had ended in June and July 1940, millions of people who were killed in the fighting, about 20 million people from that point on, would not have been killed. The 6 million all died in the period after June, July 1940.